If you feel lost right now, if you wake up every day feeling like something is missing, listen carefully. You are not broken. You are not lazy. And you are not behind. What you're feeling has a reason. And no one ever explained it to you. Most people don't feel lost because they failed at life. They feel lost because they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They followed the path that was drawn for them before they even had the chance to question it. They went to school, chose a reasonable direction, worked hard, stayed disciplined, avoided unnecessary risks. From the outside, everything looks fine, sometimes even impressive. But inside, there is a quiet disconnect they can't explain. A subtle sense that their days are passing, yet nothing feels deeply theirs. It's not dramatic enough to call it pain. Not loud enough to call it suffering. It's just emptiness. They wake up tired, not from effort, but from repetition. They move through routines that make sense on paper, yet feel strangely foreign in their own body. And when they try to understand why, they blame themselves. They assume something is wrong with them, that they are ungrateful, unmotivated, or incapable of being satisfied. But the truth is simpler and far more uncomfortable. You can build a stable, successful, socially accepted life and still feel lost when that life was never truly chosen by you. The real problem is not that you don't know who you are. It's that you were never taught how to listen. From a very young age, you were trained to adapt, to behave, to meet expectations. You learned how to avoid disappointment, how to stay within acceptable limits, how to be realistic. Slowly, without noticing, you became very good at surviving but very bad at choosing. Every time you ignored that quiet inner resistance, every time you said it's fine when it wasn't, every time you postponed your truth for the sake of comfort or approval, something important happened. You disconnected a little more from yourself. Not all at once. Gradually. Silently. That inner voice didn't disappear. It just learned that you weren't listening. So it stopped interrupting you. It waited. And years later, it returned, not as a clear message, but as confusion. As restlessness. As that constant feeling of being out of place in your own life. You don't feel lost because you lack direction. You feel lost because you've been walking in a direction that was never aligned with you. And the longer you ignore that, the harder it becomes to recognize yourself. What makes this state so dangerous is that it doesn't arrive as a crisis. It arrives as a habit. No one wakes up one morning and decides to abandon their life. It happens quietly, through small choices that feel harmless in the moment. You postpone difficult questions. You accept temporary solutions that slowly become permanent. You tell yourself you'll figure things out later, without realizing that later is already happening. Days start to blend into each other. Weeks pass without distinction. Life becomes efficient, organized, predictable and emotionally distant. You are busy, but not engaged. Responsible, but not present. Moving, but not progressing. This is what living on autopilot looks like. Not chaos but numbness. You function. You perform. You meet expectations. Yet somewhere inside, there is a growing sense that you are watching your life instead of actively living it. And because everything appears stable, you convince yourself that this feeling must be normal. That adulthood simply feels this way. But it doesn't. What you are feeling is not maturity, it is disconnection. One of the most damaging lies we believe is that clarity comes first. That one day, if we think long enough, analyze deeply enough, or wait patiently enough, the answer will finally appear. That we will suddenly know what to do and only then allow ourselves to move, but clarity doesn't work that way. Clarity is not something you find in silence. It's something you earn through movement. When you don't act, your mind fills the gap with doubt. You replay the same thoughts, imagine worst-case scenarios, question your abilities, and slowly convince yourself that staying still is safer than being wrong. And the longer you wait, the heavier the fear becomes, not because the risk increased, but because you gave it time to grow. You are not confused because you lack intelligence or insight. You are confused because you are trying to see the entire path before taking the first step, and life never reveals itself that way. It reveals itself while you're moving. While you're trying, while you're adjusting. Waiting for certainty doesn't protect you, it quietly traps you. There is a moment most people don't talk about. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is deeply unsettling. It's the moment you realize that the feeling of being lost has been there for a long time. So long, in fact, that you've started to adapt to it. You no longer question it every day. You've learned how to function around it. You've learned how to stay busy enough not to feel it fully. And that is when it becomes dangerous. Because one day, the discomfort fades, not because things improved, but because you stopped resisting. You tell yourself this is simply how life feels. That excitement is for younger people. That meaning is optional. That stability should be enough. But underneath that calm acceptance is something else, resignation. It's not loud. It doesn't panic. It just quietly gives up on possibility. And when that realization finally hits you, it hurts, not because you failed, but because you recognize how much of yourself you've been slowly abandoning to stay comfortable. But here is what changes everything, that feeling you've been trying to escape, the restlessness, the dissatisfaction, the quiet discomfort is not a flaw. It is evidence. It means there is still a part of you that refuses to settle for a life that doesn't feel true. It means you haven't gone numb. You haven't disappeared into routine. You haven't completely disconnected from yourself. Most people never reach this point. They stay distracted. They stay comfortable. They never question the direction they're moving in. You did. And that matters. Feeling lost is not the end of your story. It is the moment before direction. It is the internal signal that something needs to change, not all at once, not perfectly, but honestly. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need a 5-year plan. You just need the courage to stop ignoring what you already feel. Because the moment you stop running from that discomfort, it stops being a weight and becomes a guide. So here is what matters now, not everything, just one thing. Stop asking yourself the big, overwhelming question. What am I supposed to do with my life? That question paralyzes more than it helps. Instead, ask something simpler. Something more honest. Ask, what am I tolerating that I no longer respect? Is it a job that slowly drains you? A routine that leaves you numb? A silence you've been hiding behind? A version of yourself that feels smaller than who you know you could be? You don't need to escape your entire life today. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You need movement. One decision that interrupts autopilot. One action that proves to yourself you are still choosing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Because the moment you move even slightly, something shifts. Your mind clears. Your energy changes. Your sense of self begins to return. Staying still feels safe. But it is quietly expensive. Strong closing, the message that stays. One day, you will look back at this moment. Not as the day everything made sense, but as the day you stopped ignoring what didn't. You'll realize you weren't lost. You were resisting a life that no longer fit you. And the moment you chose to stop waiting, your life didn't magically become easy. But it became yours. Don't wait until this discomfort disappears. That's when it's already too late. Stop waiting. Start living. This is one day too late. And this is your moment.